Good morning, everyone. So, hey, my name is Jenny once again. So, we are now on our 16th episode of Real Talk with Jenny. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone, all of our audience that, continuously watching us every Sunday. It's a Sunday, so I hope that we will all be blessed today. Today, we have an exciting topic. So today we have how to change your life that sticks. Many times we find ourselves wanting to change something, but after a week or two, a month or two, everything goes back to our comfort zone, to our old self. So this time around, we are truly blessed to have a very inspiring guest who will share her wisdom to all of us is Natalie Ledwel. She's a best-selling author, host of a podcast, not over just different, but co-host of the cable TV show Wake Up. She's also the founder of Mind Movies, the hugely successful and revolutionary online personal development company that has reached over 5.8 million people worldwide. So, yeah, you may sense I'm a bit nervous today. but nonetheless, we are so grateful and honored to have Natalie.
Hey, Jenny, how are you?
I am doing great.
Great to see you, darling.
Thank you so much for saying yes and just actually sharing your wisdom to all of us today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, I think that at the time in which we're in, I think a lot of people are very stressed and we feel like we're out of control and we don't know what's going on. And so, these kind of shows like what you're doing, Jenny, is really helpful to a lot of people. And just maybe one little nugget or one thing that you share will make the biggest difference in somebody's life. So, yeah, I'm really happy and honored to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. As you know, I'm a newbie in this.
Yeah.
It's our 16th episode, but we've actually have around 18 content already because one of the episode went into a series. So I just don't know. I normally say perhaps it's the universe connecting me to people, to someone like you, and all the time I just get goosebumps whenever a person would say yes, I'm happy to share. You just have a generous heart and willing to help others.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and you have the courage and the motivation to ask. Sometimes, you'd be surprised, especially during, this time when most of us are at home anyway, how many people would be willing to support you. So, yeah.
Yeah. So today we have a very, very how do you call it? An important topic. As I said earlier in my intro, we always want that change. So we do something like one or two to make that change. But most of the time we end up going back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and change is it's a challenging thing because when we want to create a change that sticks, someone that that stays with us, often to do that we have to kind of know what we want, but we're overcoming a whole lot of programming and negative beliefs and thoughts about ourselves that either we picked up when we were children or that because of our programming when we were younger. It's attracting certain relationships or certain people or certain events into our life. And so these events kind of just validate or confirm what our negative belief is about us, but it's not necessarily true. And the reason that event or that person's in your life is because, you're operating from these old, beliefs, these old thought paradigms. And so we need to overcome that to be able to make some sustainable change. And I think, with this whole COVID and pandemic, because we have a lot of time to stop and think and assess, and, some of us have been kind of forced into a situation where maybe we've lost our jobs and we have to reevaluate, whether that's the the right job that we wanted, if we want to go into some kind of new career. So it's an interesting time for us to learn how to make a change and how to make it stick, because it's, it seems like a lot of people are really kind of, looking at how to do that right now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny. I mean, this pandemic thing, it's not a good thing. Definitely not. But it has somehow given us that time. Hey, wait. Everybody needs to pause and reflect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's good and bad in everything. And I was
Yes.
actually talking to a friend about this today, and we can. I mean, those people that sit down and go, okay, this pandemic is terrible. We could get sick. We're living in fear, and when you notice all the negative things that are happening about this pandemic, and that's all that you're focusing on, what we know that what we focus on expands. So then you just keep seeing more bad things and more bad things, and then sooner or later, that's all you see. But if you shift your perspective like just a little bit and going, well, yes, we all acknowledge that people getting sick and people dying for this virus is not good. No one thinks that that's good. But, we can live our life from the fact that this is happening, for other people, or we can go, what I do have control over is my immediate environment, my thoughts, my emotions, my environment. And I know that if I keep focusing on the negative, then I'm not going to be creating anything positive in my own environment. So how can I shift my focus so that I'm seeing what's good, like what's good that's coming out of this, and what's good maybe for me that's coming out of this. Now, that's not negating all of the other horrible things that are happening and the people that are losing their jobs. And, I know in the beginning of the pandemic, people were going, oh, we're all in this together. And yes, we are all faced with this, but our experience of it is vastly different, depending on, where we live, the financial stability that we have and the type of industry that we work in. So, but, yes, that's terrible, but let's focus on what's positive for us, because then what happens is that the more we see the positive, the more that expands and the more the good that we see. And then we are showing up as this positive example. We're showing up as this happy person that can really help to raise the emotions and raise the vibration, the frequency of those people that we come in contact with. So, yeah, it's really important that we start doing that.
Yeah. Well, while listening to you, it just sounds like we really need to push ourselves and do it, because the human as we are, I believe we always tend to look on, hey, what's the problem now, and we never stop thinking about all those problems, and we tend to not look on the positive side.
Yeah. Well, remember, the stories that we tell or the stories that we say are the things that can either help us move past an event or keep us trapped there. And when we say trapped in this past event, so let's say there's something that happened in your past that was traumatic, that was, bad, or that was not, not positive. You could keep retelling the negative version of that story, but all that does is keep you tethered to that event that happened in the past. And for every situation that's happened, there's always one thing or one positive thing, at least something that we can, look at it from a different perspective and go, look, I had this terrible situation. I was, had this terrible event happen to me. Maybe my business failed or whatever that was, failed a relationship, whatever that thing is. But if I keep telling the negative side of it, then it stops me from going into a new business or a new relationship. Because my story is I'm a victim because I've been in this, in this negative side of the story. But if you tell the part of it where, yes, my business failed, but it helped me to see this, and I learned this mistake, and I learned this about myself, and now this new business that I'm in, thank God I went through that, because it taught me what I needed to get to this next level of success. Or if it's a relationship, that was a terrible relationship, but I learned this and this, and the gifts that I got from that is that I'm now resilient, that I'm, stepping out in a bigger way, that I'm stepping more into myself, and I'm not going to make that same mistake in the next relationship. So everything can be a learning experience, and everything can be something that we can grow from, if we choose to tell that version of the story.
So it boils down a little bit on the mindset, right? On how we would want to look into ourselves and move forward on each of the obstacles we come through.
Yeah, well, when we get to choose, we get to choose what our life story is and how we tell it. And, and even though like these past events may not have been amazing, when we can't control these, terrible events from happening again, but what we do control is, the story we tell, how we think about it, and how long we choose to allow it to affect us moving forward. That's what we have control over. And so, we want to make sure that all of our stories and the way that we show up, and when we start to do that about our past stories, what happens is that when these events start to show up again, even when we're in the moment, we can go, oh, God, this is not favorable. This is not what I asked for. I didn't want this. But I can already see a positive in it. So then what happens is that event doesn't throw you off kilter. It doesn't derail you. What happens is you go, okay, that wasn't good. All right, learnt my lesson.
Show it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Show it off.
And then you keep moving. And so you've got your momentum still keeps going so that you're able to, not be thrown off, the journey or the path that you're supposed to be on.
Oh, wow. See, we just started and you can see a lot of wisdom coming out already. Yeah. So I just feel it's humans' attachment to emotion that stops from moving forward sometimes. But anyway, just to interrupt Natalie a bit, to our dear friends, just please say hi to us so we can just greet you and see all your comments. You are free to ask questions. We are, I always say I'm just grateful for Natalie for being here, so she will be able to answer our questions today. So yeah, Natalie, for those people who haven't met you yet, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about mind movies
Yes. Okay.
before we dive in?
So I remember there was a moment back in 2006. I was living in Sydney with my husband at the time. And at that time, we were actually running 4 different businesses at the same time. So Glenn and I have always been serial entrepreneurs. We've always been in a ton of different types of businesses. But I had this moment where I'm looking at all my bills and I'm looking at my bank's balance on the computer. I'm just going, all right, I am missing some vital piece of information here because I don't know why we're still struggling financially. We were taking a lot of action. We were involved in business. We were doing a lot of really good things.
4 businesses.
4 at the same time, like crazy people, and working really hard. But it was kind of like we were like a car that was up on a jack and the wheels are spinning, but we weren't moving anywhere. And I'm like, this is just crazy. And then not long after that, a friend suggested I buy a DVD online, which was called The Secret. And The Secret was a movie and book that came out in 2006 that talked about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is like one of these universal laws that states that like attracts like. But specifically, this movie is about how you could use the law of attraction to be able to manifest or create the kind of results that you wanted in your life. And I remember sitting down and watching this movie, and Glenn and I were sitting on the couch and we were watching the movie, and I'm just like, okay, this is the missing piece. And I'm like, I have no idea how I missed this. I was a student of personal development from the age of 21. One of my bosses handed me a set of cassettes by Brian Tracy, and I remember I just wore those tapes out. I used to play them in my little old beat up car like for ages, but it that kind of got me on that road. So I used to do a lot of seminars and read the books, and so I knew how to set goals and I knew how to think positively and make a plan. But for some reason I missed the point that, well, yes, you can do all of that, but you don't necessarily need to know the whole plan. Because if you're taking action and you know where you're heading, things are going to fall into place for you. And the whole part about visualizing and actually seeing myself in that future and feeling what it was like to already be there. Like I'd missed those pieces. I'm like, oh, okay. So then not long after that, a friend showed us this little movie that he created, and it was his version of a vision board. So a vision board is, what they'll cut out photos of magazines of like a car and a house and the things, vacations they want. but they'll put it up on the wall so that when they're looking at this vision board and looking at these pictures, it's easier for them to visualize or to imagine themselves already on the holiday or already in the car. So here's this was this little video, and it had PowerPoint slides that had affirmations on them, which was describing what he wanted. And then in between the PowerPoint slides was these photos that matched the affirmations, and it was music. So it was this little slideshow, dynamic slideshow with music that was just, and I get goosebumps every time I think about it, because, I mean, he was this young 30-something-year-old guy. So he had, girls in bikinis and, hot cars and things like that, which is not what I'm into at all. I remember thinking, wow, this is really powerful. I'm like, dude, you have to show me how to do this, So not long after that, he approached Glenn and I and said, look, I'd like to set up a website, and distribute the instructions so people can make these movies for themselves, And by this stage, this is 2007, The Secret had just been on Oprah. So everyone was talking about the law of attraction. Everyone knew what that was. And so we're like, well, this is a good idea. I mean, we've already got 4 businesses. We don't need another one, but this is a great idea. And you have to also appreciate that at the time, Glenn could hardly turn on a computer. I hadn't even heard of YouTube or any kind of social media.
Because 2006.
Yeah. So 2007, I was like, I hadn't heard any, I spent no time on the internet. And so, but I knew this was a good idea. So Brian's like, it's okay, I'm going to teach you. So, we put together this little video, we put it up on YouTube. And, the first day, nothing happened. But the second day, we ended up getting 3 sales. And we didn't know what to charge because, it's like air, like, I don't know, $20. Let's just charge $20. We didn't know what to charge. So, but we made 3 sales on the second day. We're like, that was an exciting $60 that we had made. It was like, oh my goodness. And then within a matter of months, we had so many emails coming from people saying, this is changing my life, and all of the things that they had created for themselves. And I said to the boys, I went, okay, guys, we need to get serious about this. And so we ended up we were like, how do we do this internet marketing thing? So then we realized you could actually buy programs on the internet that taught you how to do it. So we bought a program by a guy called Frank Kern. And Frank is, a legend in the whole internet marketing world. So we bought his program, did really well. And then he announced he was doing a live event in April of 2008 in San Diego. So we're like, great. So we came over for that event. We were accepted into Frank's mastermind group, which is one of the smartest things we did, because we surrounded ourselves with people that could give us the right advice and give us the right support and help us, structure everything. Bless you. And then we spent 6 months. Basically, we had no money. So we were living off credit cards. We spent, 10 or 12 hours a day working from our bedrooms, trying to get everything ready for this launch. So by the time we actually got to the launch, we'd accumulated $120,000 on credit cards, which I don't recommend anyone does. But, we were convinced that this was going to do well. But what we didn't know, we didn't realize until the morning of the launch, is that an economic crisis had gripped the planet. And people were losing their homes, and and business were just like, I don't know what this means, but it was scary. Like this has to work. This has to work. Otherwise, I don't know how we're going to crawl out of this big hole. And fortunately, that launch, we did a $700,000 launch. We were selling like a little $97 program, but that launch, it could have gone either way. But obviously, it was the kind of information that people wanted. People were looking for something to help them. And when you're making a mind movie, it's not just the movie that you end up, but it's the whole process of getting clear about what you want and all of those kind of things as well. So that's what kind of put us on the map. So in, 10 years now, we've reached basically 6 million people, which is just amazing. And we're looking at working with kids and the whole thing. So it's been an incredible ride, and my life that I look at right now, it far exceeds any expectations I ever had for my life. It's so far better than anything I could have ever imagined for myself. But, I use the principles that have got me to this place, and I teach these principles as well so that people can duplicate something for themselves,
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't just imagine. But you did mention that at the age of 21, you were already listening to, um, I would say they're motivational speakers, right?
Yeah. Well, back then, it was a little while ago. Back then, people like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. I've actually had the honor of meeting Brian Tracy. The first time I met him, I was speaking on stage and he was in the audience, and I was so nervous. Um, and I've got to meet all of my mentors that I had back then, and some now, like all of the people that were in The Secret. They're part of a group called the Transformational Leader Council. And I was nominated and invited to join that group as well. So all of these people that were my mentors are now my peers. So it's
Wow.
I know that when you apply the right principles, then it doesn't matter what you dream up for yourself, you can make it happen.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking the reason why I asked this question is because that for some people it's a later life that they realize all these things, like listening to motivational videos now. But for you at 21, I think that's already early. Like most of us, like for me, I only listen it when I am nearly 40, so something like that. Until such things happen, that's when the time you try to search and you find all these things. But with you, I think earlier you are already in this. Is it something that you were taught when you were young? You were already taught by your parents to always be positive and you should listen to these books and this and this and that. Is it the person that you are in the beginning, while I mean growing up, that you've always been that positive
Yeah,
person looking for?
it's a very good question because I'm one of 8 children. I have 7 siblings, and I grew up in a country town in Australia. And I remember I've always been confident, and I've always been, very good at school and very good at sport, and all of those kind of things. And it wasn't that mum and dad weren't encouraging. It's just that there was 8 of us, so they were doing their best to look after the 8 of us. So you can imagine when you kind of get lost in all of that. But I do remember, I left school when I was 15 at the end of year 10, because, that's what we all did, because, mum and dad couldn't really afford to keep us, going on to school higher than that. And I always wanted to be a teacher. And specifically when I left school, I'm like, I would have liked to be a PE teacher. And so what did I do? I'm like, well, what's the closest thing to that? I'm like, oh, I'll become a aerobics instructor. So I started working in the fitness industry, and then and so then when I was 18 and old enough, I'm like, okay, my country town isn't big enough for me. I need something. I need to get to the big smoke. I need to get to the city. So I moved to Sydney when I was 18. Didn't know anybody else, but I just knew I had to go. And then by the time I was 21 years old, I was actually managing fitness clubs. And that's when, I had my bosses were spending a lot of money investing and teaching me and learning. So I was very fortunate that I was able to learn all my business acumen on other people's businesses. So that when I started doing my own, I'd already had collected those skills. But, I had confidence. That first job where I was managing the fitness club, I talked my way into that job. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was very confident. And I'm thinking, I'm sure I can do this. I'm sure I could do a really good job of this. And I just learned as I went, In Australia, we have a saying that, you bite off more than you can chew, and then you just chew like hell. And that's kind of how I've lived my life. But, as soon as I listened to those cassettes for the first time, it woke up something in me. So I think there was this recognition that, yeah, wow, this information is going to help me. And then I just became like an avid student and was just, ferociously going to the seminars, reading the books and doing all of that. So that when we got to mind movies, and this is 20 years later, I remember when we started getting all the emails from people saying this was changing their life, it sparked something in me that reminded me of what it was like when I was back in the fitness industry and doing something positive and really making a difference. And it felt like I'd kind of, we had all these different businesses, but now I'd found my way back to something that I felt was really my purpose. And so I had this recognition. I'm like, okay, guys, come on, let's get serious about this. So, I think that was a remembrance. So yes, I do have some of it in me, but when the right information was given to me at the right time, it just ignited what was already there.
Wow. That's great. All right. Okay. So, guys, just say hello if you are tuning in, if you're able to listen to me and Natalie this morning, my time, her time, evening time. Yeah. See, it's amazing how people can connect from any parts of the world at this time and just share thoughts, wisdom to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
All right.
and wait, so yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's okay. Yes.
No, I'm just going to say, I have through like all the work that I've done and the success that I've had, I've kind of just honed this whole manifestation process down to like 6 steps. Did you want me to go through the 6 steps?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first step is what I call getting into your happy place. So when we look at science and we look at epigenetics and neuroscience and so forth, what we know is that everything is made up of energy. Everything is made up of energy. So when we say everything is connected, made up of energy, that's true. But everything's resonating at a different frequency. Something like the table or the computer here is resonating at lower frequency because it's solid. But then something like sound or light is at a very high frequency. So it's, you can hardly see it. And so when we're trying to invoke the law of attraction to be able to create what we want, we need to be a vibrational match to what it is that we want. So we need to change our frequency to match that frequency of those things. And the way that we do that and the frequency that we send out into the universe is our emotions. So emotions, yeah. So if we're thinking positive or feeling positive emotions, things like, happiness and joy and gratitude and accomplishment and pride and, all of those kind of positive, higher frequency emotions, then the more often we can do that and maintain that, we get into what we call flow. Or if you listen to Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, he talks about being in the vortex. And it's all about being in this higher frequency. So it's easier for things to be attracted to us because we're resonating at this higher frequency. And so your happy place is really feeling happy feelings as often as we can. And one of the fastest and easiest ways that you can do that is through gratitude. When we can sit down and take a moment and, I know like Oprah talks about this, everyone talks about gratitude journal, right? And, you're writing down 5 new things every day that you're grateful for. Now, the purpose of that exercise, and there's a couple of reasons why that's so good. Number one, you remember what I said before, how what we focus on expands. So you are focusing on the good things that are happening in your life. And the more you do that, the more they will expand. It also means, especially if you have to commit 5 things to a journal that night or the next morning, that you're looking for the positive in everything so that you have something to add to your journal that night. So it's kind of already conditioning you to look for the positive. And then when you're writing down, it's not just a matter, the purpose of this exercise is not to write 5 things. The purpose of this exercise is to feel grateful while you're writing the 5 things and as much afterwards as you can, because we want to maintain that high frequency emotion. Okay. So, the things that you're grateful for can be obviously things that you have, but it also can be for future events. So if you know what you're working towards and you've got a goal, then be grateful that, that you're taking positive steps every day, that's going to be coming into your reality. You're so grateful that, you're going to be able to create that for yourself. And what that does is surround this future event that you're going to create with this whole energy of expectation and belief, because you know that it's going to happen. So, being in a happy place is step number 1. And the fastest way to get there is through gratitude. Okay, then step number 2 is to set an intention. Now, when you set an intention, what you're doing is basically putting the universe on alert, putting yourself on alert, but you're drawing a line in the sand and you're going, right, no matter what, I have an outrageously successful business. I have a loving and supportive relationship. I have optimal health and, vital energy, whatever it is. So you want to state what it is that you have in present tense as if you've already got it. So no matter what, I have or I am. And then the second sentence of that is your why. So why do you want to create the extra income? Why do you want the successful business? Is it because you want to inspire people around the world? Is it because you want to create a beautiful life for your family? Is it because you want to give to charities? Is it because you want to travel? Whatever those reasons are. So could be something like, no matter what, I have an outrageously successful business that I feel passionate about that positively changes the lives of millions of people around the world. Okay, now that's an intention statement. So what I then do is I encourage people to write that statement out, stick it on the mirror in your bathroom, and then for at least a week, and maybe more, you want to make sure that you're looking at yourself in the eyes, in the mirror each morning, and you're reciting your intention statement with so much conviction and so much resolve that this, no matter what, this is happening. And by doing that, you start to change your energy. You start to change your thoughts. Even your actions start to automatically change because you have, like I said, drawn a line in the sand and this is going to happen. So you don't have to get too specific yet, but that you want to make sure that you've got that intention statement that's going well. Okay. So that's step number 2. All right. So step number 3 is what I call getting clear. So this is where we start to drill down. So let's say that you do want, an outrageously successful business. Now, at this stage, you don't need to know what that business is. You just need to know that it's going to be a business and you're going to feel passionate about it and you're going to be helping millions of people around the world. That's all you need to know for now. But then once you have this successful business, you want to describe what life looks like when you get there. Because, our next step is visualization. And when you're visualizing yourself already there and you can see it in your mind, then you've got to figure out, well, what does that look like? How does it change my life? How does it change the life of my family? What does my day look like? What am I doing different when I have this amazing, successful business or whatever it is? You also want to talk about why, why you want to do this. And, what I recommend is you think about the why for the people that you're serving. So, how is what you're doing going to change their lives? You want to think about a why for your family. So for the people that you love, and then you also want to think a why for yourself. And maybe, and you can get as personal and as whatever you want here. Maybe you want this outrageously successful business so that you can afford to have a massage once a week and go and get your nails done.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything you want, but it's got to be something that really is meaningful to you that you know. You also want to think about if there's any kind of actions that you need to take. Maybe you need to change your daily, your daily practice. Maybe you want to start, making a certain amount of sales calls a day. Maybe you want to start meditating, whatever that is. You want to make sure you talk about that as well. And then you also want to describe how you need to change the way you think. And this is really important because how we think is what has got us into the situation where we are now. Now, if we're not completely happy with the situation we're in right now, that's awesome because we know all we need to do is change the way we think. So we're thinking, well, how does a wealthy person think? How does a really healthy person think? How does a person in love think? And then this is also a great opportunity to acknowledge any kind of negative thoughts that may be rattling around in your mind that have held you back before from being, successful. Things like, and a lot of our deeper programming and our deeper beliefs about ourselves is that we don't deserve success, or we're not worthy of success, or we're too stupid, or, you think about some of the things that we're told when we're kids that we just take on as a belief, So we want to make sure that we replace those thoughts with thoughts that are positive, the opposite of those, and ones that are going to really help us to get to that point. Okay. So once you've thought about all of this, I always recommend writing these out as affirmations. So when you write them down, you've got to write them as if it's present tense, as if they're happening now, and really make an effort not to use any words that are going to conjure up a negative image in our mind. Like, so for example, I wouldn't say, I'm debt free, because as soon as I say the word debt, I am back at my desk in 2006, looking at all my bills, pulling my hair out, going, what am I missing?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that, it's like I am abundantly wealthy. So you want to just state what it is that you do want. And then with these affirmations, you can read them each morning,
Mhm.
and they'll help you to do your visualizations. You can put them up on a vision board with some photos, or you could create a mind movie. And they're a really good way to be able to do that. But what it does is it comprehensively describes this amazing future that you're creating. And that in itself actually helps to build your belief, which is super important when it comes to manifesting our future. All right, so that was step number 3. Do you have any questions, Jenny? Is that all?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, all these things that, okay, I'm one day we'll say I am debt free like that. And then at the next day you'll still think about all those things. I do believe it's also a habit that we need to uh practice. I mean, we need to think of this every day, every now and then. I mean, not only every day, maybe morning, afternoon, evening,
Yeah.
because human as we are, I mean, especially if we're just starting to do this, it's I mean, it's we just said we should not say negative words, but I mean, in reality, it's difficult for someone who's new starting, because later on, but that's not true. Oh, but I have this, I have that. But we need to just make it a habit to do this every day, every now and then. Think about it, so that
Yeah,
later on.
sorry, you bring up a really good point, because, our affirmations, and this is the way that we use my affirmations at Mind Movies, because I know that if you have these affirmations, let's say that I was to recommend that you read them aloud to yourself in the mirror as if they're happening now, that voice, that programming, that negative beliefs are going to start screaming inside your head and go, that's not true. And who do you think you are? That's going to happen for you. But that's not how we use affirmations. The reason we write them as affirmations in present tense as if they're happening now is because we need to describe the landscape, or we need to describe this future for our visualizations. So you're right. They're not happening now. But unless we can write them now and then use them to go there in our mind as if it's happening now, it's not going to happen. So that's and I'm glad that you brought that up, because we don't recommend that you say them, especially if they're not in existence yet. But they are in their way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
uh,
All right.
yeah, Natalie, just thinking out loud, because the old me normally isn't that positive, but I do believe what I did on my journey when I was soul searching is that I always listen to motivational videos, reading inspirational books. And I don't know if it's true for everyone, but I just feel that even though I didn't remember every single word I heard, but my subconscious mind, I believe it's absorbing it. And there's a shift in that personality that came about.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just I know you're an expert here, so you can think if that's true. That's what happened to me, because normally I would always look back on what happened in the past. It's so hurtful, painful, and all that. But it has, through time, I have shifted to that person that, okay, it will just pass. But it's that feeling that I don't feel the pain anymore, I don't feel that hurt anymore. Oh yes, I'm not saying that I can't remember, Yeah, I
Yeah.
still do remember, but the feeling of being hurt, having that pain, isn't that brave anymore as how it was
Yeah.
um in the past years. But there are times when you're asked to um tell us what happened. It would still be there, but it's just a thing that passed. There's still pain. You'd still cry somehow, but a little. But it's not that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think too is that because with all the videos and the books and everything that you're learning and you're putting in there, you're having a greater understanding of how things work. You have a greater understanding that, and maybe, and I don't know if this is your situation, but sometimes because of what you've learned, and especially about our programming and where it comes from, then you have this empathy, or you have this understanding that whoever was in the other person in that relationship, they were hurt too, and this is the way that they were acting out. Now, that doesn't mean that what they were doing was right, and it doesn't mean that what they was doing was good, but it gives you an explanation as to why it was happening. So it gets you into a better place where you can forgive, or you can understand, okay, well, that's what was going on, but I'm out of that now, and now because I'm rid of the shackles of that past relationship, I now can step into my light and into my shine. But I might not have been motivated to do that if I had a loving relationship, and that didn't happen to me. Sometimes there are people and events that show up in our life that because they are the person that they are a catalyst for us. Their being, their behavior, what they do sparks something in us and a reaction in us that puts us onto a path that maybe is the path that we're meant to be on. And that's whether they're showing up as a great person or a not so great person. That's that whole thing. And remember, with our subconscious mind, and I know that when you're reading in these things and watching the videos, that it kind of makes you feel good, and you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. And you start to, we want a little bit more of that little hit, that little serotonin hit. It's like, yeah, I want to read some more of that. That's what I was like when I had those cassettes when I was young. I was like, oh, yeah, I need some more of this. This is great. And so, and remember, our subconscious mind processes about 40 million bits of data per second. It is like a massive supercomputer. Now, our conscious mind, our thinking mind, only processes 40 bits of data per second. So, our subconscious mind is absorbing stuff that's going on around us far more than we realize. And the good thing about watching all these different videos and reading the books is that a lot of what us teachers teach is very similar, but we say it differently. We speak it differently.
Yeah.
We teach it differently. And sometimes you can hear something, because, I'm not saying I never heard about the law of attraction before, but the penny never dropped for me until I watched The Secret. And sometimes you may hear something a few times, but that you'll come across a teacher like myself or Bob Proctor or Mary Morrissey or Jenny or someone who says it in a way you go, oh, now I get it. Now I understand.
True.
Which is the reason that you want to, still be making sure that you got all this positive information coming in, because it's all just building. It's been building this big knowledge bank in your subconscious mind, and then as you're moving forward and you need something, you'll be like, oh, I can't believe I remembered that. But the subconscious is like, no, you need this. We need to send this through to your conscious mind. So that's kind of how that works.
So sometimes we resonate with a specific person that, would make us really, that will bring out the spark really, even though we've heard it 100,000 times.
Yes, no, exactly. Yeah. So I've got 3 more steps to finish, and then we can take some more questions as well. So step number, what are we up to? 4. Step number 4 is visualizing. Okay. So everything that we have in our world, everything we have in our life started as a thought first. And for us to be able to overcome all these negative thought patterns and limiting beliefs, because all those thoughts travel along these neural pathways in our brain from our subconscious to our conscious mind, we need to create new neural pathways that have got positive thoughts that are in alignment with this future that we want. So as often as we can, we want to be visualizing and seeing ourselves already in this future as if it's happening now. Now, you don't necessarily have to be sitting down in a meditative state to do that. You could, I call it daydreaming with intention. So you could be vacuuming, you could be cleaning, and in your mind, you're already in your future. You could be driving the car, and you're already there. And the more often you can do that, then the easier it is for us to create these new neural pathways with the positive thoughts that then positively affect our actions, which of course then positively affect our emotions. So now we are feeling what it's like to already be there. So now we are a complete vibrational match to the things that we need and that we want to make this happen. And then you start to notice things coming in so quickly and opportunities coming in so quickly. You're like, wow, like what's happening here? It's because you are a vibrational match to it. So when you visualize, what I highly recommend is that rather than see yourself as like a movie character, like you're a character in a movie and you can sing that scene play out in front of you, you actually want to be in the scene itself, and you want to use all of the senses that you have. What are you tasting? What are you smelling? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Like use all of your senses and just choose one scene, because we could say, look, I want to be outrageously wealthy, or I want to be financially free. And you go, okay, that could mean a million things to you. So sometimes it's hard to kind of just focus on one, like, on what that means. But if you're choosing one scene, so let's say that if you're financially free, it means that you can go shopping without having to look at the price tags. Maybe that's something you want to do. So what you do is you see yourself walking into a store. Like if I was doing that, I would see myself walking into the store. I could feel the air conditioning that's on inside the store, so I could feel my skin getting a little bit cooler. And then I can see, the woman coming. She's handing me clothes, and I'm in and I can, I'm taking clothes off and putting clothes on. I can feel the fabric against my skin. I can see how amazing I look in these new outfits, and then how good I feel when I just hand over the money or hand over the credit card or whatever and pay for it, and not even have to worry about how much it cost. And then that feeling is what we want to magnify, because that's what's going to help us to get to that point. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's like you are reenacting what you want to be.
Absolutely. You're it's like you're having this dress rehearsal inside your mind.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
I
your
like
vision.
that.
Yeah. So all right, so that's step number 4. Step number 5 is obviously to take action. You need to be taking action towards your goals. It doesn't matter. A lot of people go, but I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if this is, where I want to go. You go, it doesn't matter. Just start taking any action, because that is going to lead you to where it is that you eventually going to end up. It always does. So you've got to take that action. You've got to be in the right place at the right time, and you're not going to do that if you're sitting at home on the couch. Okay, so action, action, action. And then the last one, which is probably the hardest one to practice, is what I call surrender. So you've got all those first 5 steps done, and you've got that. They're kind of the mechanics. But even when you get to that point, we have to surrender into not knowing how it's going to happen, and not knowing what it's going to look like when it shows up, and not knowing how long it's going to take. So we have to surrender into knowing that everything that's happening is happening exactly when it's supposed to, in divine timing. And we can get frustrated because sometimes we want things to happen now, but there's a reason it's not happening now, and we have to surrender into knowing it's okay. It's coming, and it's going to be okay. And we have to surrender into knowing that God, or the universe, always has our back, and that everything that's happening is happening for our highest good. And when we can really, truly live from that place, then, we release any kind of stress, any kind of frustration, any kind of impatience. We release all of that. And we know that everything's always going to work out, And then I remember a few years into, practicing the law of attraction, Glenn and I used to say it all the time. Everything always works out for us, because, we always knew that it would. And then when you can live from that place of, of trust, and surrender into that, then anything you want will be able to happen for you.
That's amazing. I mean, you have just to believe that it's going to happen. It may not be happening now at this point, but it will happen.
Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't happen at the time that we expect it to happen because we're not ready.
Yeah.
or the other person is not ready, or the thing or the event is not ready.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
what's important is we visualize what we want, and we remove all the negative thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's going to be days that are going to be a little bit tough, and there's going to be some challenges that come along the way. So we're not thinking positively all the time because that's just crazy.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But here's the thing: when you understand this, you don't stay in that negative place. You don't stay in those lower frequency emotions for long. I mean, yes, we have to feel them. We have a whole spectrum of emotions that's important for us to feel. And like even during this time of COVID, like I've had some afternoons where I've just sat down and had a cry, and I don't even know exactly why I'm crying. I think I'm happy and sad at the same time, but I know that I need to have that emotional release, and it's not a good thing to keep it bottled in. And then after I have a cry, I'm like, okay, I'm good now. I can carry on. But it's important that we honor our emotions, but just don't stay in that negative story or those negative emotions. And especially fear. Like sometimes we don't want to set ourselves a huge goal because we're
Yeah.
like, what if I fail? What if it doesn't happen? And what if I'm disappointed? That's okay. Of course, we're going to have those thoughts. We just don't stay there. We acknowledge them and go, yep, well, what's my first step? What's the first thing I need to do to get towards my goal?
So you did mention we have to honor our emotions. So sometimes we grieve, we cry. How do we know? How do we know when we're ready? Does it just come out, or do we also need to put an effort sometimes to, okay, I've already sat on this emotion for a day. I mean, overnight. I think that's long enough. I should get out of it. So there is, I mean, what I'm trying to say is there is also an effort for us to get away from it, or we just let it sit and we wait. We will feel it once we are ready, and we will be able to get snap out of it.
Yeah. Well, I have a good friend of mine, Dr. Joan Rosenberg, and she's written a book about how to, have freedom within 90 seconds. And she's a psychologist. And so she's like, when we feel an emotion, the physical part of that emotion normally passes through our body in 90 seconds. So if we're feeling sad, that's 90 seconds that emotion can pass through. What keeps us there is our thoughts.
Mm.
And sometimes we can overthink, we can overanalyze, we can get in a place of stress, and our thoughts keep us there so that we're consistently feeling this emotion. So all we need to do to be able to move through that is to go, okay, yep, all right, I've been wallowing in my sorrow, and I've really felt like I've been feeling sad. And it may not be like snap, now I'm positive. It may be a progression to get there, but it's like, okay, well, what's one positive thing I can see about this? Okay, so I've got that one thing. Well, what's something else I can see? And then gradually you'll get to yourself to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done with that now. I'm ready to move forward. But it's like something like grief. These kind of things there's no rule book. And if anyone tells you that you should be moving through certain stages in certain periods of time, it's a load of crap. We process at our own pace and our own time, and whenever we're going through these things, we have to be gentle with ourselves. We have to be loving with ourselves, and we have to understand that it's okay, and that when we're ready, we'll be able to move forward.
Sometimes you just need to reflect, but not really dwell on that specific incident that makes us sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. A lot of important nuggets, golden nuggets shared with us by Natalie. Thank you so much for that. I have written down a few questions, but I think these questions were already answered. But anyway, I'll just say it. I'll just say it then, even though. Okay. All right. Because my initial question, I was just scribbling last night, so is it possible to manifest financial abundance during this pandemic? So basically, yes.
Absolutely. So I have some friends where they've been furloughed or they've been put off work, and so now they're like, okay, well that has dried up. So what's something else that I can do? I have other friends of mine who have businesses like mine where we're really helping people and helping people to think differently and to have some control over what's happening, because everyone feels like we're out of control, and our businesses are doing well. And I've got other people who, I had one woman on one of my coaching calls, she, because the government has been able to help with certain payments. She goes, I'm financially in the best situation I've ever been in. And so she's feeling like she's got some financial stability. So yes, absolutely. Because even though some doors have closed, other doors are opening right now, and there are other opportunities that are coming up. So it doesn't matter. Like I said, when I did our first launch, it was in the middle of the economic crisis in 2008, and we had the most successful week of our lives. So it is absolutely possible.
Just listening to that story when you had a lunch, it just looks like the the situation wherein it's bad for everyone became like an opportunity for you because it's what people wanted at that time.
Yeah. I mean, people always want it, but they wanted
Yeah,
it more at that time. Yeah.
yes, exactly. That's what I mean. So it's also a matter of perspective on how we look things. Our mission is what other people need.
Right.
So something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because you think about it, I mean, life is kind of like a tapestry. And so I have my string in the tapestry going up like this, but there are all these other strings that are affected or being touched or being, influenced by my string and what I do and what I do in the world. So, I think when we're looking at, well, what is my life's purpose, for example? Well, my life's purpose, I believe, or all our life's purpose, is to show up as the best version of who we are. But then when we look at our mission, at the moment, my mission is mind movies. And now I'm moving into this program for children. And so my mission is going to change. It's not like we, have to, if we're looking at creating a business or a career or something, it's going to be that, what we're going to be stuck with that for the rest of our lives. We can change that at any time. But, sometimes these things morph into different things, and I was talking before about, not knowing how it's going to show up. A perfect example of that is us and my movies. So one of the 4 businesses that Glenn and I had was a network marketing business. And I'd never seen a business model like this before. And I was convinced that business was going to be the business that will get us the lifestyle that we were looking for. Now, the thing is, because we were in that network marketing business, we met Ryan, who's our friend that came to us with the idea. Now, if someone had to say to me, even the day before Ryan approached us with this idea of putting up the website, that they're going to go, look, you're going to have an outrageously successful life. You're going to be financially free. You're going to hang out with all of your mentors. You're going to be helping millions of people down around the world, and you're going to have this really fulfilling life. And you're going to do it through the internet. I would have laughed my butt off, because I'm then like, the internet? I don't know anything about the internet. There's no way that's going to happen. I would have never believed them. And yet here we are. And I remember when I wrote all my affirmations out for that previous network marketing business, when we came to the US, I went back and I found them when I got home, and I was looking at all those affirmations going, wow. So Mind Movies was the business. It was the vehicle that got us here. I would never in a million years have guessed that. But because we were open, and even though we were taking action towards a network marketing business and it wasn't where we were ultimately going to end up, it led us to Ryan, who led us to Mind Movies, who led us to this, this life that we get to live.
So it's people, situations, and events that would somehow lead you to your final destination.
Yeah. That's why I say it doesn't matter what kind of action you take, any kind of action, because it's always going to lead you to where you need to go.
Because that's what's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. So each challenges or obstacles we encounter each day, are actually learnings for us to meet the final version of ourselves, the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, well, let's hope that we're always improving.
Yeah, yeah. So there
Yeah.
should be always a drive. Um, we should always continue to pursue on that
Yes.
dream.
Yeah, I mean,
Because there's
I also have a coach. I don't just go, okay, I know everything I need to know now, and I'm teaching this. Like I'm still learning about myself, and through everything that I'm covering for myself, I'm learning these lessons, which I'm now being able to teach, put into my teaching. So, I think that if we're always open to growing and evolving and learning, then from that place, life is awesome. Because there's always just this other level. We get to really feel like we are always, because, the other thing that we want to be aware of is that sometimes these goals that we may set ourselves will take some time to get there.
Mhm.
So, we can get impatient and we can get
Yeah,
frustrated because we want it to happen now. But the way that you eliminate those things is just be happy in the present moment. Like at the end of your day, when you're looking at your gratitudes and writing it down, just like if you had like one step or one thing that got you closer to your goal, then celebrate that, because this is what it's like, because we're always going to be on a journey to something. And if like that, we have to enjoy every moment and every day on the way to it.
yeah. It's like we just always have to be a child, right? It's funny how we are this when we were kids, but then as we grow older, we learn new things and we tend to ignore the small things that life has to offer.
Yeah.
You know how children are always excited.
Yeah.
I think when we became adults, we're not that excited anymore on simple things. And
Yeah.
I like the idea that you are now doing this program for kids. I'm just picturing that it will be really, really good to start it young when
Yes.
when kids have a very positive mindset and do all these habits. Wow, I can just imagine how many great people will come out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is all the stuff that we wish that we'd learned when we were that age.
Precisely. Yeah. All right. Okay. Before we move on, I'd like to greet our friends who are watching at the moment. Guys, just please say hi. And if you have any questions, please just type it in so that Natalie will be able to answer it for us. All right. Okay. Um, see, I also have a question, but I think it's also been answered. So my previous question when I was writing it says, "How do you deal with frustrating situations in the past?" So you've already answered it earlier with your 6 steps. It's also covered here. What do you suggest to people who are having a hard time sleeping? Can
Sleeping.
it all sleeping?
Yep.
Can it also, you know, with all this positive energy that with all the steps you've shared with us, perhaps you have some more. That also
Yeah.
helps. I mean, a healthy person would have a healthy mind, and sleep is important.
Yeah.
Most people are suffering from that, I believe, because of stress, overthinking. I mean, I think that's the root of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
getting it from the
Yeah, I have a little routine before I go to bed as well. So, yes, I'm doing my gratitudes, and I do watch a mind movie. What we do know is that whatever we watch or look at the last 5 to 10 minutes before we go to sleep is what our subconscious mind is going to be mulling over all evening. So, I want to make sure something positive is in there. I could be reading a book, I could be watching a mind movie, writing my gratitudes, whatever that is. But the other thing I do is I look at my calendar and see what I've got scheduled for the next day, because I want to look at it and go, okay, yes, got this, and maybe there's something like, an interview that I've got to do. Maybe there's, some meditations I need to create or whatever that is. And so I'll put that in my mind before I go to sleep. So my subconscious mind has a moment to be able to go over it, so that when I wake up, and I'm asking God, I'm asking the universe, how am I going to do that meditation? What am I going to do here? I find that answers are coming through to me because I've already, done that. But the thing is, yes, people are finding it difficult to sleep because they are stressing and their mind just keeps going and going and going.
yeah.
And so we want to get to a point where we can quiet our mind down So like focusing on something positive, like reading a book or a mind movie is great. But the other thing you can do is do a meditation before you go to sleep. So you can be listening to a guided meditation that's designed to, relax the body, slowly relax the body, slowly relax the mind, taking you into like deep. And there's a lot of like sleep meditations out there that really help you. Sometimes it's not, once you get to sleep, it's fine. But I think people have trouble getting to sleep because they're overthinking and all that stress. But if you're listening to a really great guided sleep meditation, it really helps you to drop off pretty quickly.
Yeah. So from what you said, it's really important that we feed ourselves before we go to bed. We feed it with good thoughts, good movies. If you're watching a movie, make sure it's something that's happy and positive, so
Yeah.
we won't have a nightmare. Obviously.
Or if you've been watching something on Netflix, which I've done a couple of times during COVID, and then that night all I'm doing is dreaming about, whatever I was watching, whatever TV show I was watching.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Natalie. All right. Were there any you've mentioned that at the earlier time you've already been a positive person. Were there any specific instance or event that you encountered that you really got frustrated? I mean, that you, hey, I mean, with you being positive, suddenly you get out of that being a positive person, something like that. Was there a specific incident or situation?
Yes. So during that initial launch that we did back in 2008, the version of the story that I told you is like the rainbows and puppy dogs version of that story.
Yeah.
And everything that could go wrong went wrong during that time. The apartment that we ended up finding in San Diego, because we just got there at the beginning of summer and everything was so expensive, and we found something that was, like in our price bracket. We're like, yay. And then when we moved in, we realized we were underneath the flight path of San Diego Airport. So all the planes were taking off over the top of our apartment. It was like, it was so noisy. We had, the email company that we were, collecting all the data through during the launch, the pre-launch. Our list went from 8,000 to 80,000 in a week. And it grew that quickly that the company that was collecting all the data thought we were doing something illegal, so they shut down our account. So we had to get that reinstated again. Then they closed down for maintenance on the morning of our launch. So no one was receiving their confirmation emails that they had purchased a program. So we had 3,000 customer support emails by lunchtime on the first day. So it was just a nightmare. Then we were using PayPal as our payment gateway, and they decided to freeze our account. So yes, we created all this money, but then we couldn't get at it, which means we couldn't pay our affiliates, and there was all these things that we had to pay. We had $120,000 on credit cards. And every time they said that they would release the funds, they changed their mind. And this went on for 6 months. 6 months. We nearly went bankrupt. Like, it was like there were so many things that went wrong with this whole thing. But, the way that we got through it is knowing where we were going. And every time something would come up, we're like, oh God, okay, well, we know that there's more than one solution to every challenge. So what solution are we going to choose for this one? So, failure was never an option. That was not going to happen for us. We were determined to get to where we needed to get to. And so with all of those, those things, yes, you have a moment where you go, oh no, this is all happening. But then you kind of collect yourself and go, okay, let's get into action. What are we doing? Who do I have in my circles that I can go to for support? How do we get around this particular challenge? And when you're always looking for the solution, you're always going to find one, so we're always in that kind of a mindset.
So the key is to always find a solution rather than dwell on that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes back to knowing that everything's happening for a reason. So you're like, okay. So it all kind of entwines together.
Yeah, because going through all those might have made you think that, hey, maybe this is not it. Maybe this is not for us. Right?
Yeah, it was challenging enough as it was, because we were trying to learn all these new skills for the first time. But I'm telling you, all of the things that went wrong in that first launch, never went wrong ever again after that, because we'd been through it. We knew. So that was like, that's it. Other things would come up, but then we'd learn how to get through those, and then that would never happen again. So, and so when we get to a place like now where we've got COVID, we are so completely set up for a situation like this because of all of the challenges and everything that we've gone through before. All of the life lessons, all of the business lessons. So we've really built a recession-proof company, which is because we went through all the hard times.
Yeah, that's really awesome because you were really focused on your goal and your whys.
Yes.
I've picked up from all those six tips you mentioned earlier. I'm learning. Woohoo! Yeah. So that I hope you guys are learning too. See, it's really really fun and just I can't stop listening. With all these golden nuggets that Natalie is sharing. So once again, hello to all our viewers, all our audience out there, and just say hi. I know Natalie is a busy woman, but we are so grateful that she's with us tonight, her time, our morning time. All right. Natalie, perhaps you would like to invite our audience um, to go into Mind Movies to all your programs. Listening to you, I know it's really, really exciting. I would love to be part of your group. So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to mindmovies.com, mindmovies.com is our main website. So there you can find out about all of our programs, and we have different meditations and programs and things there that you can find out about. What you'll also find there is a link to my podcast. So I have a podcast that's called Not Over, Just Different. And it's about going into this next chapter of our lives. So, our life is not over. It's just morphing into something different. And so we talk a lot about health, aging, marriage, divorce, a whole bunch of different things that's sort of related to women specifically. You'll also find there my inspiration show. So I actually finished doing the show last year, but I have I think 800 videos there of different interviews that I've done over the last 6 years. So there's a lot of free information there that you can find. And you can also, you'll see a little box there where you can put in your email, and we'll send you 6 pre-made mind movies. So these mind movies are already done and are on creating wealth and building confidence and, creating an amazing relationship. And once you download them and start watching these mind movies, you get to see what wealth means to you. So you'll be watching the movie, and then already in your mind, you're seeing yourself as this wealthy person. So they're a really good place to get started and to get clear about, what these kind of things mean to you, so you can get more specific when you're writing your own affirmations and your own goals.
That's great. So, guys, what are you waiting for? It's really, really important for us to get all this information because it helps us in our daily life. Helps us to reach our goal, and it would help to become the better version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Natalie, any parting words? Any more? I know you have a lot, a lot of wisdom to share. Yeah, just perhaps, yeah, to our viewers today. Any more that you'll be happy to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you follow the formula that we kind of laid out in the video today, it doesn't matter, where you live in the world. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter, whether you feel like you're stuck or whether you feel like you're actually in flow. You actually applying that specific formula is going to help you to create a life that is beyond your wildest dreams. So, you feel like and when you do this, you have control, you can positively influence the outcomes in your life. And it doesn't matter who you are, this will work for you. So I encourage you to, listen, make some notes and start applying these for yourself. And I know it'll make a massive difference for you.
That's true. Thank you so much, Natalie.
You're welcome.
On behalf of all our viewers today, thank you so much for gracing the show and with all those golden nuggets. And we will surely go and dive into mindmovies.com to make sure we have all those information handy whenever um, we're going astray. But yeah, but basically to form our habit to become better versions of ourselves.
Excellent. Thank you for having me, Jenny. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. May you have a wonderful evening. I know it's is it 9 p.m. your end?
Yeah, 9:15 in the evening on Saturday. So, yeah.
Yes. So please do take care and thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. All right. See you, everybody.
See you.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was another episode of Real Talk with Jenny. I hope you have written down all those important notes. You know, I mean, I'd always say I'm grateful to all the speakers that we have on our show. They are just so generous to share their wisdom, their knowledge, their experience to all of us. So that was another episode of Real Talk with Jenny, episode 16. I'll see you next Sunday. Just type in or just message me if there's a specific topic that you wanted us to talk about, and if there's a specific guest that you would want us to invite, and I'll try my best to connect with them. So may you have a wonderful Sunday. Take care, everyone. God bless.